Mr. Lenz?
Okay, welcome. And any of us up here can sign your papers before you leave tonight, so welcome. All right, consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion?
Just a quick question on the MOU with IJAG. Is that, I mean, I know we do it every year. Is that program still going as long as it
Yeah,
has been?
yeah, we still have the number of kids we need, because if it wouldn't, then they would leave our school anyway. You're really required to have a minimum, so it's still a good program for us.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, on to recognition.
All right, so we have a bunch of recognitions, and I'm gonna do categories here for some of this. So the state solo ensemble competitions, if you look in the packet, we had a ton of Division I solos, Division II solos, Division I ensembles, treble clef ensembles,
Madrigal.
Thank you. Mixed ensembles, bass clef ensemble, North Scott Singer Chamber Choir. All of those students did well. And we had Division II ensembles, treble clef, and chamber choir. And then band, we had Division I solos, Division II solos, Division I ensembles, and then we had Division III ensembles. And if you just look at the list, and orchestra also had Division I and Division II. So there were a ton of our music students did a phenomenal job. So congratulations to them.
Congratulations to them all. That's so impressive.
Yeah.
Some here tonight with us.
Yeah. Awesome. Congratulations.
And then the next one is the Choral Educator Award. So it isn't surprising Laura Potts has been selected as the 2025 Choral Educator Award recipient, an honors initiative through the Iowa Choral Directors Association. So congratulations to her, well deserved. And then we have the jazz band also received recognition, and so we have a number of recognitions there for both and Jazz 1. And a number of students, again, I think, is doing a phenomenal job. And then the final category is our Music Association Solo Ensemble Festivals. And so very similar to the first one, we have the soloist for Division I, soloist for Division II, ensemble for Division I, superior rating, and then brass choir, and then we had bass cornet, and then clarinet choir, percussion choir, ensemble Division II excellent rating, clarinet duet, saxophone, woodwind choir, woodwind cornet. Congratulations to all of them. So quite the list of the kids who have been extremely successful in this past month.
Proud to have them all as answers. Any comments? Anybody?
It's wonderful.
It's
Looks
really
like we had
great.
one of the sophomore Morris did a composition that he played his. It's pretty cool. So, Casey's. I think Marlena, you might have won the most named and most appearances in one of the state solo list for 6 times.
Okay, the bills, Jill.
Yeah, this evening we have $1,548,059 worth of bills presented for approval to be paid. I have selected a payment to DMW Design for $24,566. That's a partial payment for some more design, branding and signage at the Regional Innovation Center. A payment to Premier Plastering and Drywall for drywall and painting in at the new student-built home for $15,616. And then there's a payment to Figge Art Museum for $1,000. There's applications that come in for different students through the Have Life grant, and then the committee selects them. So $1,000 for a student to go to the Figge Art Museum for a student summer camp is passed through.
Thank you, Jill. Does anybody have, can you have a motion first, please?
Motion to pay the bills. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions for Jill?
When you said it was, sorry, when you said it was a partial payment?
Yeah, a down payment, and then we'll have another equal payment.
Oh, equal payment, okay. And that'll be it for that? All
Yep.
the signing, okay, thanks.
Ms. President.
Yes, yep.
Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor of paying the bills, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, on to no committee reports. So our junior high presentation.
So I'm Chad Jones, the building principal at North Scott Junior High. With us is
Stephanie Farnker, the associate principal.
Eric Luter, student support coordinator.
all right. And so we all have had a part in this, and Ms. Heather Schultz was a big part of this as well. And so just a little background, the why behind it. When it came to our MTSS system, so thinking about the tiers, we have a very clear process for our academics, for reading intervention, math intervention, but we definitely had a deficit when it came to the behavioral side of things. So we were looking for a way to better support our students that needed additional support for a variety of reasons, and a grant became available in the state of Iowa. And so we worked together with Heather and then some local partners, Bettendorf specifically, and identified that if we can get this grant, we can get some money for training of our staff and then also some additional staff members to help us support those students. And what we noticed is we need to have some type of support because suspension, kicking kids out of school is not the answer. We needed to figure out how do we better serve our students to find those skills, because that's the shift that we'll talk about through this. Is it's not just a will thing, it's a skill thing. So with that, I'll hand it off to Stephanie for the agenda.
All right, so we're going to start. We welcomed all of you and introduced ourselves. So we're going to move into our journey. We're going to explain the past and how we identified areas that needed improvements. Present, making shifts to our current reality, the structures that we needed to tighten up and get better into place in all different tiers. Our therapeutic learning classroom, that was new, but then also supporting our students that need tier 3 interventions that aren't necessarily TLC students that need behavior plans. The different components that go along with the tier 3, and then what we learned along the way, as well as future and what's next for us and the district as a whole. So as we move into our journey, after we learned that we got the grant money, we got together as a school team, met with some Bettendorf staff and our AEA, and we identified areas that we needed improvement as we looked at our systems that we already had in place in our building. So our team meeting structures, we had a lot of teams here and a lot of teams there, but really having a systematic approach to how we looked at data and got around the table and made sure that those were efficient meetings and that we were doing the right work. Routine and timely data collection, universal school-wide expectations, which we found was extremely important to make sure that we laid that really solid foundation. All tiers had some sort of systematic identification process for our interventions, staff roles and responsibilities, learning more about trauma and the brain. We did that through a lot of professional development and having speakers come in, doing some book studies, and then how discipline and behaviors were approached, really emphasizing that relationship piece. So through our structures, we created a visual for the staff. Eric Luters did a nice job of putting this together so everyone could see how we are addressing students in all different levels. So the green is our tier 1, what all students get. Yellow is the tier 2, where we go through our data, determine whether it's academic, social, emotional, or behavior supports that they need to help strengthen those skill areas. And then our most needy students when it comes to areas that we have identified through looking at our data would be our tier 3 students. And those students, after some interventions and looking really at their strengths and needs, we were able to identify the students that could best benefit from this TLC program. So first we adjusted our tier 1 process. Like I mentioned, that was our foundation. We wanted to make sure that we became more trauma informed. As we've learned more about our students as they come into our district, we have a lot of students that have trauma that we might know about from day 1, but it might come through in different areas that we're learning about as the year goes on. We learned that best practices for students that have trauma are essentially best practices for all students. So that was really important for us to learn. Strengthen our building-wide expectations so everyone started out at the level playing field and then identified their areas of need, and then that identification process that went with it. We mixed up some things with our Lancer Way from 3 weeks to 6 weeks, looking at different skills that needed to be retaught. We rewarded students, making sure that we were identifying not just their areas that they struggled with, but also we wanted to congratulate and honor and recognize those students that were doing a great job and showing up every day. We took place in a lot of behavior trainings. There was a group of us that went to Chicago in October for the PBIS conference, professional development in-service days. We had a lot of training and learning embedded in that with our AEA staff. And then we had a behavior team that was compiled of about 3/4 of our staff that wasn't meeting during our BLT time, that really looked at best practices for behavior. We had different subgroups. This team met monthly, looking at data, communication, acknowledgement, and then teaching. Like I mentioned, the Tier 1, we made our posters around the building. As you come in, you can see the red and white posters that show our different expectations. So it's very clear, no matter where you're at in the building, you have the same expectations when it comes to hallway behavior, classroom behavior, restroom, cafeteria. So everyone knows what's expected of them, so there's no how to best support them on the next level of the Tier 2. Looking at gradual release of responsibility, still bringing in that academic piece, gaining adult attention and interruptions, voice volume technology, and then strengthen to aid this identification process of students that needed support. So as you can see, we have these displayed around the building, and then we also shared this with caregivers through our monthly email, as well as on our social media page to make sure that we were all speaking the same language. So when something was communicated home, these were our expectations, so everyone was on the same page.
So, student services team, so this is our team that meets once a week. And so our team members, myself, Ms. Farncrew, Mr. Luters, both of our counselors, and Ms. Wilson. And then also, if we need to talk to our reading interventionists, math interventionists, or specific teachers. But we're meeting weekly, and all of the things Stephanie just talked about, looking at that data. And we actually had a tool built for us as well as part of that. This is the data matrix that we utilized to, so what we had to get away from as an SST team is it's very easy to have like a recency bias. Some event happened, something's going on, so we needed to make sure that we're treating this fairly for all students, and we're identifying the students that truly need that support. So you can't really see it on this screen, but each of them have categories, whether it's behavioral referrals, Lancer Way scores, Ds and Fs, counselor visits, those types of things, and we needed to make sure that we're following that data rule, so it's not just, oh, this big incident occurred, this level of support is required. We wanted to make sure that we're tiering the support appropriately and then following this data matrix that goes along with it.
So with our data protocols, then we looked at getting a tool that could quantify the data. So looking at referrals, academic grades, Lancer Way, our boost, all these different categories that we would look at different spreadsheets, how can we compile it into one tool and be able to look at what's Tier 2 is that additional support. The whole idea is to try to change the experience for the student to change the behavior. Check in and check out with modified features, so we can look at targeted behaviors or locations. We can get a little bit more specific with how we're supporting those students. We have trauma-informed groups, support groups, and then a tardy plan that falls into that Tier 2 category. We made check in and check out digital, so that students don't have to carry a copy of the point sheet. It's all digital, so that it's easy to assess and look at across the board in our building. Tier 3 interventions, we have the individualized behavior intervention plans with the therapeutic services, so the TLC program. Along with that, we can do those individualized BIPs without the TLC part, which is another component. Regulate, relate, and reasoning is with the counselors, and that's talking about the brain science behind behavior, and helps teach the kids self-awareness about, hey, fight, flight, or freeze. This is how you behave or act depending on if you're regulated or not. And then we have individualized admin plans, safety plans, alternate passing plans, and attendance plans that fall into that Tier 3 category. Into our Tier 3 TLC supporter intervention. This is the support staff that helps run that program or that intervention received and build that self-awareness component, understand why they are feeling the way they are. And then there's a therapeutic location for regulation. Along with that, they get accommodations that are very individualized for the class longer, because the best place for students to learn is in the classroom. That process for enrollment is very intensive. We look at parent perspective when we're building these plans. We look at student perspective, teacher perspective, sample of what that looks like with our case study. And then the teacher perspective. And we put all these perspectives together, and we get a baseline with that thinking skills inventory, and we start looking at how we can best support the students with with accommodations that look at preventing dysregulation, that looks at building and connecting students and staff members with stronger relationships, and then also looking at classroom accommodations academically to help them stay regulated. Currently, we have 9 students in 7th grade that are in the TLC program. We have 5 students in 8th grade, and we're still looking at adding 1 or 2 more students this year. And then we've reached out to elementaries to start looking at what students might have the greatest needs that we can serve right away at the start of next year. The therapeutic learning classroom, it's a classroom, but really it's just a space to regulate. The student goes there for 10 to 20 minutes. There's a protocol. They find a spot and they regulate, and then they go back to class. It also has a classroom component to it where they can have that regulate, relate, and reasoning class work done in the therapeutic, and that becomes a really safe spot for those students. This is our therapeutic classroom. It's located right by the office. It's a great location. It's a pretty amazing space, and the students have really found it to be a super safe space in the school. We also were able to redo our school-based therapy space to allow it to feel more welcoming and more regulating for students that are going through therapy. So this is a case study for a student through that TSI, that progress monitoring tool. And if you look at the second quarter to the third quarter, that purple and green is a deficit. And then you can look at, just by taking a break that replaces that behavior, we see a huge amount of growth. Almost went from a weakness to sometimes a strength for that student. Just by taking a break and replacing that. That student increased their attendance by 7 days, and decrease their regulation minutes by 200 in that quarter span. So being able to offer that to students has been a huge growth point for these students that struggle in school.
At the student lead, what we found is if a student is dysregulated sitting in the classroom, they might be physically there, but they're mentally not. And so the reality is we need to teach that skill to get them back engaged in their learning. And in our Lancer way, we look at that through Be Involved, and we will see those score data points. And then this is how we're trying to address that, through the skill building with the counseling lessons, and then also by going to the regulation space. And then you saw Miss April Thurman has been our behavior interventionist, and she's built some really strong relationships with the students. And the thinking skills inventory, these are staff reported along with the student reflecting upon it. And so I can't emphasize enough, when you see that, Eric, the way you laid this out to me, it made it really simple. Purple bad, the purple shrank. So less time in that room regulating, more time in the classroom engaged in their learning. Really everywhere, and then that was our coaches. We meet weekly, and we did through a book study and looked at how can we behavior as a personal attack on us when it's not personal. It's a response to something that's going on in the environment for the student. So we have to realize as adults, behavior is as much about us as it is the student. So we have to make sure that we're regulated. So we have to make sure that we're regulated when it comes to those things. And this common learning and understanding was something that was provided for our staff. And then she came over here and we had a workshop model with our junior high teachers in the afternoon on that day. Also, if you were to go walk around the building, you'll see some stand-up desks. We know that getting up and moving around is part of that. So we have stand-up desks in every classroom. Eric already showed the space upgrades. We talked about the therapy room and the counselor's office and our conference room. And then that SST room. As educators, we have all kinds of data. The challenge is bringing it together so it makes sense, and that tool allows us, and our AEA partners help us with that. Stephanie already talked about the teams attending all of the different trainings we had, the TIPS training, the team-initiated problem solving, functional behavioral assessments, BIPS. This is the acronym soup right here. Collaborative problem solving. That was very strong. That was in part of the school discipline fix, and it laid it out really clearly. Plan A is the adult plan. So when there's a problem behavior or a situation going on, we have plan A, that's what the adult. This is what I said, this is what's going to happen. Plan B, the student gets to share their perspective, and then we try to find some common ground in there. And what we found is with the students that need the most support, they need to be heard. And so it's more of that collaborative problem solving. And then the C part of that plan is the child just gets to do whatever they want. So we're trying to get away from the A and the C, get more to the B.
All right, so as you've heard through this presentation, this has been quite a learning year for all of us here at the junior high, not just for the staff, but for the students as well, getting used to having those collaborative problem-solving conversations with teachers more than just being sent to the office. You're having a conversation, you're being heard, and you're being welcomed back into the classroom with a different feel and a different environment. So we learned a lot along the way. Like I mentioned, we have done through their elementary, junior high, and high school, getting the TLC grant, but really making it work for our building and our staff. And then embedding our one Monday every 3 time doing. It was just how the way that we're doing, having those conversations with students, having them be a part of it. Streamlining our communication process and meeting agendas, making sure that we're communicating with the staff exactly what the plans look like, not just through email, but face-to-face communication in the process to make sure that they move through that intervention process from start to finish. Probably one of the biggest things is go slow to go fast later. We learned that probably the hard way in the beginning. We wanted to dive right in and learn all the things all at once, but when we are trying to get 4 or 5 students through the process at once, we got bogged down, and so it ended up making the process a lot slower getting a student through the system to get them into the TLC program, where if we would have just focused on 1 or 2 students at a time, with 2 to 3 weeks, opposed to 5 or 6 students that took maybe a lot. It's very staff-driven, and so from the students that are being invested in it. So making sure that the staff is involved in that. 1 to 2 students needed the behavior interventionist to do what that role looked like, for us to help strengthen that through this year, but then in the years to come. So come August 23rd, 25th next year, we can really hit the ground running with this TLC program, making sure that we have everything in place, communication and delivery of the student plans, and then the importance of administrator involvement in that. And lastly, making sure that we're supporting all Tier 3 students, not just students that are in the TLC program, but our most needy students, can have those individualized behavior plans to help support them, however that might look. A change in mindset and philosophies, that's probably the biggest shift that took place in our building, and it's still going to continue. If there was a misbehavior, you know, it was a referral, it was a detention, it was this, and that, as we would hope, but we're not going to give up. We don't ever want to send the message that this was a 1-year grant that we got and then done next year. This is how we want to continue working with students and staff from here on out, but it's not just a 1-year process. Continue sharing the brain science and the why, and sharing our story. This was really impactful, especially during curriculum cabinet, where some of our other buildings in the district were able to come and see what things we had in place. It was really eye-opening and exciting for them. And so through our experience and the work that we've done here, we definitely have confidence that we've had a lot of success in this initiative, and we're excited to see it play out in the years to come.
All right, I get the future. All right, so we'll continue with the learning of this. Like Stephanie pointed out, there's been a lot of learning, a lot of adjustments, and things that we look back now and it's like, oh, we probably could have done that a little bit differently. But we're going to continue with that to strengthen our Tier 1 for everybody, Tier 2 and Tier 3. Refine our process. That's what we're in the process of doing right now. So we're reflecting upon what we've done to this year and then what changes can we make for next year. Process mapping, that's just laying out exactly what everybody about Dr. DeSalto's coming in, and then grant applications for next year, and we're looking to support those schools as they look at those things as well. So please swing by our room on your way out, and thank you, and what questions do you have?
When will you get news if you receive the grant again?
So next year starts our reimbursement process.
Wrote in here, and you said something, you've worked with a high school. This is just in the junior high right now, correct?
Correct.
Is the goal. You know, the junior high does such a great job. They go to the high school and they don't have this in place, and they're going a different route, and kids become frustrated. And what do you mean I don't have a place to go? Because I need balance. The program that sounds to be, we should have this throughout all our schools.
So this week, the grant application is due again. Get it, comes through AEA. So the plan application is due on the 1st in June, if we get it. And then we find out it's actually the money from those 8th graders coming up and what supports they have. And using that process even to start to look at some of their current students that are 7 through 11 this year, and how that might look and support that. So hopefully it's something, definitely, as you see, you have to be ready to do it. It's a big commitment, and you have to have staff and admin really buy into it, so that adult commitment to the program.
So it really seems like it's something we need.
100%. So hopefully, as we see the next two buildings add, the other elementaries will see that benefit as well and potentially expand.
I think just with having the one professional come in and doing professional development is key. And it sounds like she's been able to do junior high and high school already, so that's already out there. I would like to think that the $175,000 that we have money that can continue on with some of that training, whether we get the other grant or not. I mean, it might be tight, but hopefully we'll get the grant so we can continue on with it, because it looks to me like you've got the good thing going. I'd like to see us expand on that. I just don't want to see a big blip in them here. They leave here and they go to junior high and we have all sorts of problems, or people come to the elementary and think, wait, what's this all about? I think we have a smooth transition and it would be very beneficial.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Anybody else?
Thank you very
I'm
much.
just excited, this is wonderful, you guys, your energy, your passion, and not only the staff have to be involved in this, but clear roles, clear expectations of what everyone's to do, how they contribute. It's wonderful for our kiddos. Thanks for all your hard work, and you definitely are on a journey, and you are proving to become best practice, I bet.
Yeah, Eric and Nick Swanson from the AEA have started developing a handbook. So not only can we refine our practices
great.
here, but anyone else who's taking this on can
Yeah.
kind of help guide them through it.
Good.
So there's no balls dropped anywhere when it comes to, things that we learn, things that needs to be done. Because it is quite a process, and I think we learned a lot along the way that we wish we would have known sooner rather than later. So if we can help support other buildings, not just within our district, but other districts as well. We had a lot of great support from Bettendorf, where we took a lot of their things and tweaked it to make it ours. But if we could be that support for other districts, it's just best practices, and it's not just our thing. It's how all students should be supported.
We're better than them. No,
At the School Board Association, I went to Bettendorf. They did a presentation on the time that you've all put in and helping our kids.
Good job. It's exciting.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, last year you guys gave us an update. I was trying to go back and look. I think it was more about what you were doing in the classroom. That was fantastic progress. Your update this time, focusing on that and supporting the kids in other ways that can impact their learning is so important. And quite honestly, I would have thought between last year and this year, you had 3-4 years worth of work going into this. So, which means that this to me is tremendous growth and progress in just a year's time of just additional things that you're offering to the students. So it looks like a ton of work compared to the great update you gave us last year. So thank you.
Appreciate that. Yeah, we've definitely learned that kids can't learn in the classroom if they're not regulated, and so doing this work first is essential to be able to have reports like last year. Anything else?
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming and sharing today.
Good job, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, on to new business.
All right, yeah, first up is our membership to the School Board Association. It is for $10,760. And just a reminder, that's all of our professional development, our team work with the board, our board policy. It's probably the most important organization for the school.
I'll make a motion that we approve it.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve our membership in the IESB. Any discussion?
I would just like to add to it that I know that, being on the board, they talked about increases on dues, and typically they've always gone through and said, what is the new monies for the school districts? And 2% or whatever, and it's usually been right around the same thing. This year they decided not to go that high. 1% was enough to go ahead and do it, because we do have fairly flush financial right now, so we can do a lot of things, and we're looking at other ways to help our school board. So as Joe said, it's not just one thing, it's you get a lot out of ISB, and I think we're just touching really just part of it. There's a lot more that we could be doing if we wanted to.
Anybody else? Okay, all those in favor of passing our ISB membership, please
2017, a bill was signed that allows movement between this one bucket of money to the other bucket of money. And at that time, we did bill into the budget, $25,000 to transfer from one to the other. And our expenses this year are over 25,000, they're about 35. But the activity fund will pick up the difference. So this evening, I'm asking for board approval of the resolution to transfer 25,000 from general fund to the city.
When you say it's an increase, or was it the same?
We've exceeded it this year.
Okay, I moved to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion or questions for Jill? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, the school board meeting.
Yeah, so the school board meeting is included in your packet for starting next year in July. There's 2 changes on there. One is the superintendent evaluations are on. I was recommending going to 5:30, and so whatever's decided tonight, we just need to know so we can get it published right.
Okay.
Do we vote on that?
Do we vote first?
Yeah, we'll pass it.
We can make
But Tracy and that, if we don't have enough work sessions, to me, to justify waiting always to 6:30.
We could have a work session.
But I wouldn't wanna go like 5, just because I don't people getting off work, you know, not that we have tons of people coming to all our board meetings, but.
Maybe give them the opportunity to go to
Yep.
make it.
Yeah, and so, and it could say at 6:32, majority board says, let's just keep it at 6:30. I was recommending going to 5:30.
So we can have a motion.
Yes, just to clarifying, the 5 PM on March 30th, what does that mean? Is there a reason that's listed as 5 PM? That would
I
be our
think she
only
meant to
meeting in
move
March,
that
right?
up to, I don't know why she has 5 PM.
Because one is a work session,
It's-
it's really our only meeting in
Oh,
March.
it's missing, the March 2nd would be 5:30 work session.
That's all we do. That's
I don't
only the
know
work
what's
session.
off why it's 5, there shouldn't be a 5 there.
Okay, so that would be normal time.
Right, whatever.
It's, yeah, it's just, it would just, be normal. I don't know why that 5's there. Whatever time we set is what time the meetings will start. And then we will make the work, or the finance work sessions, you know, it'll be based off what time you decide you want to start board meetings.
So we're looking for a motion to accept as it is, or a motion to accept with an amendment to the time?
Or just come with the
Or
time.
whatever.
Yeah, just the
Yeah.
motion with the time. Actually, if you make a motion with the time,
Okay.
that'll work.
I'd make a motion to have the meeting start at 6 o'clock.
I'll second
Calendar,
that.
that's the-
Then it's
Okay.
definitely- yeah, okay.
Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we use the calendar as presented with a 6 o'clock start time. Any other discussions or comments?
I would just say, I think 5:30, personally 5:30, you can go at 3:30, I don't care for myself, but I think if we really want to make certain that we're community people.
Mr. Lindsey?
Thank you, appreciate it. Thank you, appreciate it. I'm presenting a bid to install the carpet at the Steubenville home in Long Grove. Original price was $900 with a 50% discount. Gave price was $900 with a 50% discount. Gave
Bid.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Carpet's coming from where?
Mike's 4 Pro. Yep.
So it's been moved and seconded to accept this carpet bid. All
We have a bid for 7 City Sod for the sod at the
carpet bid. All
we have a bid for 7 City Sod for the sod at the Steubenville home in Long Grove. Also $2 for a total of $2,992.50. Also $1 for a total of $2,992.50. We do also have a $20 deposit for 21 of those pallets that we'll be getting.
Make a motion to accept the Sun City sod bid for the Steubenville home.
Second.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Come get
Any
it.
questions?
Thank you for getting all those discounts for us.
No problem.
Would you like to say when the awards night is?
I would love to mention that.
Okay.
Thank you, Joan.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joan.
Yeah.
So a little bit of update, we're gonna have grading done on Monday. The flat work was done today, which is the sidewalk and driveway. Sod will be going in hopefully next week too. Our Steubenville home celebration, everybody should have gotten an invite, of May 23rd at 5 p.m. I want to thank Grandview Farms for donating the dinner for everybody. So they were very generous to put that order in today, and we're looking forward to that, get our SVPs in. 21 out of 23 students applied for the scholarship. We'll be having that meeting to decide who gets the scholarship. Awards, the Quad City Realtors will be doing that. We were updated today that we'll be in the Parade of Homes. The Quad City Times and the Quad City Realtors Association offered a free ad for us in the Parade of Homes. So we'll be doing a drive-by tour. We did receive an offer on the student home in Long Grove, so we're looking to close on that here shortly, and we're moving along pretty quick. So really good news, and everything's really exciting.
Thank you.
News and everything's really exciting.
Thank you.
We're gonna close on
You're
next
doing
year's lot
fabulous.
this week too,
Yep.
which is right next to this house. So we finished out negotiating with 3 unions. The first one up is the contract for the 2025-26 certified staff. It's a 2.2% wage increase with a one-time stipend. Also includes step movement and money movement. The stipend is equivalent to the step amount of which lane they were in this year for any teacher who did not receive either a 3% raise last year or this year.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to accept the certified staff compensation. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. These classified staff.
All right, so the classified settlement is again a 2.2% wage increase with a one-time stipend. The stipend would be a $500 stipend for an 8-hour employee and then prorated down by the number of hours it's contracted to work. And not only this stipend, but also all the stipends will be paid out in October of next year. And so one is we want people to come back and be working for us versus taking a stipend and not coming in. So that's when they'll be paid out.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I motion to approve the classified staff compensation.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the classified staff compensation. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, bus driver
All right,
compensation.
so the bus driver compensation, 2.2% wage increase and one-time stipend, again, $500 at the 8 hours, so it's really a $250 stipend for most bus drivers, because they're about a 4-hour contracted service for them.
Okay, nomination.
Make a motion to approve the bus driver compensation.
Okay, please, can you just really quick to Mr. Steady explain, the staff or the funding for the, because we're building all these new buildings and doing things and how the
Oh, yeah,
funding goes, just a
So,
little bit.
so it can be confusing, you know, when you think about funding in Iowa. Funding is silos. So we get silos where money can only be spent within that silo for the things that legally can. So building funds are bonds, so Pebble, 1-cent sales tax, those all can only go for certain things, which is mostly buildings, a little bit of technology, large purchases like buses and things like that. And so that's in that silo. So, and then staff is in our general budget, which is the one where we talk about what did the state give us for SSA. That generates most of our bills, people, benefits, electricity, supplies, all get paid out of the general budget. And that's where that money has to come from. And so you literally could build a building and then not have money to put teachers in the building. I mean, districts have done that where, you know, the population is growing, all of a sudden when they go to open a building, population shrink that year, they didn't have enough funding to fund that, enough staff in that building, just because it's a different silo. And sometimes it can be confusing, well, why are you only doing a 2.2% raise if you're opening up a $20 million regional innovation center? Two totally different things. And in our case, 3 when you're throwing bonds.
Right, that was something I was confused on as far as number, so I appreciate you explaining that, and we do all that we can for our staff, and whatever we give, we give back.
We spend about 84% of our total general budget on people. Benefits and salaries, that's what we do, and the majority of our money, and we didn't generate a lot of money from the state, so we generated from early retirement, so we spent more than 84% of our new money. Spent 100+% of our new money on staff, and, you know, but we're in the people business. We put the best people in front of us, that's where we should put our money.
Absolutely, thank you for doing that.
Yep.
Okay.
I would like to just say thank you to Joe and Jill for getting the different charts up, and whenever we had negotiations, I mean, it was just very clear when you could put it on the screen and say, this is what we anticipate, this is how much money we got, this is what a 1% raise does, a 2%, a 2.5% when we were just first talking about new monies. And to me, it's very, very easy to follow through. And I know we'd love to be able to do more, but our hands are tied when we don't get that money.
I think the
And this year,
negotiations go so well because of the transparency.
Yeah.
Just like you were saying, this is what we have, how can we do it?
and Joe, you might, just for some of the students, yet, we were on budget guarantee last year, which meant we had to borrow money basically to pay what we had, and we had to pay that back out of our 2% money. So we really got a 0% raise.
So yeah, states generally, state guarantees by law 1% new money for all schools. And if you're short 1% because you lose students and the state doesn't give you enough SSA to make up the difference, the taxpayers give you extra money that year. The following year, you gotta pay back the taxpayer. So we actually started with a minus 168,000 going into this year, and that's why 2% didn't generate new money for us. So the other thing I would say, just for students, is we do interest-based bargaining. We don't sit down traditionally, if you think, if you've ever studied bargaining, where it's your side versus our side, we're saying 0, they're saying 10%. We argue until we get to the middle. That's not the same thing our employees want. We want to hire the best and retain the best. That costs money, and so, but how can we get there? When you have honest numbers and agreed upon numbers, it makes a lot. So, and thank you to everybody, board members, administrators who participated in the bargaining process, because interest-based lasts longer than traditional bargaining. And so, you know, you gotta invest in the
Better
time.
results for sure.
Thanks for all the behind-the-scenes work too.
Yeah, thank
Always
you.
collaborative, and if you're in those sessions and really both sides are trying to come up with solutions of how to best maximize that.
Yeah, we did some language changes that make sense, right? It clarifies things, and so we work on some languages within handbooks and things like that.
Good job.
Okay, on to your report.
All
Mr. Stowe.
right, one was the thank you for everybody for participating in bargaining. School board recognition is in May, so we'll be recognizing the board in May. Legislative update, SSA is still not signed. It's 2% plus the $5 per student. But for whatever reason, the House and the Senate leadership has not sent it to the governor, because otherwise it has 3 days to be signed. It's never been sent. And so we're not sure what's on that one, so we think it's just they're waiting. I don't know, for a signing day or something. The property tax bill, I talked earlier about that. That's a bill we gotta watch. We need to make sure that they study that bill, and instead of trying to what it looks like, right? And you lower my mill rate in half, but you now make me pay on $400,000. In the end, you probably didn't save me money. My mill rate's less. It looks like I have less taxes, but in the end, I pay on a lot more valuation. It's a really complicated bill that could not just impact us, but impact cities and counties, and I'm hoping they take their time and study the unintended consequences. Look 10 years out, don't just look at next year. Well, oh yeah, they decreased it for 1 year, and then we'll start to entertain. So we just need to watch that bill. And then that governor's bill, we're hoping that goes through. That would give us money to help pay those stipends for our hourly employees. It would also give us more TSS money to help implement the new teacher minimum salaries at 50 and 62.5 or 62.5 next year. So those are big ones. This week, the senior celebration is actually a bunch. We were talking Sunday is FFA, music, music this Wednesday. FFA on Sunday, National Honor Society on Monday, athletics on Wednesday, ribbon cutting. We have a special board meeting next week to work on our strategic plan, and so next week, take a look at your calendars, see what you can make. But
It's always that way in May. It's a fun time.
It just keeps going. A lot of senior
Lots to do,
celebrations
yeah.
going on.
It's a fun time.
The ribbon cutting is 2 p.m. if you want to be there. At 1:30, we are doing a tour with the governor at 1:30, and